Next time you say you're stressed, just tell yourself the truth. You're afraid, right? Even if you're an achiever, yes, you do have fears. Having fears is called being human. The secret, though, is when you identify it, is to attack it and to change it. And the fastest way, by the way, of these three to change one state is the first quadrant of the triad, physiology. A radical change in physiology will change you faster than anything you can try and think yourself into. Because what you're doing is it's like changing the plug, you know? You got a great computer, but you don't plug it in, it's not gonna work too well. And when you change your physiology, it's like TV, it's like changing the channel. Now you go from a sad story to an adventure, just by making a change in the channel, the way you use your physiology in that moment, okay? So think of it in those terms. Physiology, language, focus/belief. Anything you want to change will come down to changing those three things. I got a phone call, found out there's a lady, some of you remember, an entertainer named Carly Simon. Carly Simon couldn't get on stage. And I heard she couldn't get on stage, and somebody was talking to me, and I wasn't able to come help her because I just wasn't available. But I did find out from the friend what her symptoms were. Here's what she would do. She would do something very similar to what I had seen as a pattern with someone else. In fact, let me give you someone else first. I meet Bruce Springsteen for the first time. Meet Bruce, and I'm a big fan. I'm like really excited to meet him, like he's my hero, right? And so I go up to talk to him and everything else, and as I'm talking to him, he's really nice, and I said, you know, tell me something. What's it like for you on stage? Do you still get juiced? Is it still like, does your body get going, does your mind get going, or are you just really relaxed? Like, what's it like for you? I'm curious after all these years. He said, are you kidding me? He said, every single time I go out there, he said, I feel a certain thing happen to my body. I want you to hear these parallels. Here's what Carly Simon says. Here's what he says about going on stage. Carly Simon says, when I think about going on stage, what happens is my heart starts beating really, really fast. And she goes, and then my whole thing, my muscles in my hands start to tighten up, and I start to sweat, and my breathing starts to speed up. And as I think about going out there, she says, everything starts speeding up faster and faster. I feel all this tension, all this pressure. And she goes, and then I know I'm having a panic attack and I can't go out. Bruce Springsteen says, you know, when I think about going out there, he said, like everything in my body starts speeding up. And he said, I feel this tension in my hands. I start sweating. He said, just still today, just like before. My heart starts beating like crazy. He said, right then I go, man, I know I'm ready. Someone starts to feel something, go, oh my God, I'm so stressed, right? Oh, I'm feeling stressed. You could go, oh, I'm feeling excited. Because stressed and excited are very close, aren't they? And what happens is a subtle change, and usually when you put the language on it, it shifts it. You may have been on the verge. You could go from either one. Someone says, oh, I'm breaking down. No, maybe you're breaking through. So you got to know that this is not some fancy schmancy like psychobabble. This is human physiology. So fear is the only thing that stops you. How fast can you get out of fear? Heartbeat. But most of you don't for two reasons. It's not a must. You don't have a standard that says, I must. When you must, you do. Watch people in war. Some of them go collapse, but most of them figure it's a must, and they figure it out, don't they? I go watch an unbelievably intense movie about Private Ryan. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a bunch of people tell me about it. It sounds like you get a real reality check of what war's like, and you see how people function in that environment. It's just a must, so they figure it out. Stuff they would never normally do day to day. They could never handle day to day. They have to, so they do. Don't make life make you have to. You make the have-tos. So it's proactive. So fear is what stops us. What changes our whole life is action. Why don't we take action? Fear. What do we got to do to get ourselves to do it? We got to make sure that we push ourselves through it by making a decision. The point in which change happens is a decision. Every change in your life that you want will come from something simple, a decision. People go, what does it take to change? Decide. But you go, oh, God sounds so simple and so basic. If it was that easy, you'd already have done it, Mr. Robbins. No, it is that easy, and you're still not doing it because you are not putting yourself in a state to decide. See, a real decision is not like a preference. It's not like where you say, I'll try it and see. That's not a decision. Decision comes from Latin. It means like incision, to cut off from. Decision is when you cut off any possibility except the thing you've committed to. It's like that is it. How many of you in this room have ever smoked cigarettes and then one day you finally decided no more, I mean really decided, and you've never touched it again and you're not even tempted to? How many made that decision at one time? Say aye. You know what a real decision is. If I came to you today and I said, would you like a cigarette? Would you go, what brand is it? No, you'd probably say to me, no, I'm not a, I want you to hear that. You'd not only say, I don't smoke, you'd say, I'm not even that kind of person. You literally divorce yourself from even that kind of person, so it's no effort. When you really decide, it's not an effort. Once you've cut it off, it doesn't take effort. Deciding takes effort, but once you've decided, it's over. You don't think about it anymore. It's like it's easier to fast than it is to diet. Because when you're fasting, somebody offers you something, you don't even think about it. You go, no, I'm not eating. Right? When you're dieting, you're like, well, maybe we could have a little more. This is a little piece of cake. Not that many calories. Right? And pretty soon you're back to where you were again. So a real decision is what you got to make. When you make a real decision, life changes. But it's a real decision, you burn your bridges, you only move forward. Now, the way to get yourself there is to put yourself in state and condition it. Conditioning is this. Build the muscle. Do you do it one time? No. You do it a lot and you do beyond what you're comfortable with, and the muscle expands, and now what used to be hard to do as the muscle grows is easy. That's the same thing with every other kind of muscle. But I'll give you one example. They take monkeys. I don't approve of this research, but this is what they do. In UC Irvine, University of California, Irvine, they've done these studies where they take monkeys and they will take 4 of their fingers and tape them down. And then they take one finger and they bend it back and forth 10,000 times. And every time they bend this finger back and forth like this, use this as a metaphor. In your brain, for you to do this once, twice, you have to make connections between neurons in your brain. Neuron's a big word for nerve cells. So to do this, imagine, as a metaphor, it's not exactly like this, to do this once, you got to put a connection, a thin thread had to be grown between this neuron and this neuron, as an example, as a metaphor. Do it again, 2 thin threads. Do it 10,000 times, and guess what? You are wired to do this. Here's the point. They untape the monkey's fingers, and what does he do constantly? For no good reason. He's wired, conditioned to do this. Now, how does this relate to you? Well, how many of you go to work the same way every day? You drive on the same on-ramp, go the same direction, get off on the same on-ramp. How many got a pattern like that? Say aye. How many have had a day when you're supposed to go the opposite direction on the freeway or the road, but you're on the cell phone and your brain is at the lunch and you get on the same on-ramp going the same direction that you normally do that's the wrong way? Say aye. You're monkeys. Can you condition yourself to feel depressed to where it feels more comfortable because you go there more often and you're wired to be there? Yes or no? Can you condition yourself to be quick to anger? Yes or no? Can you condition yourself to feeling overwhelmed at the drop of a hat? Can you condition yourself to feel loved all the time? Even if people say, I hate you. Yes, could you still feel loved? Could you condition yourself to feel happy as a consistent way of living all the time? Yes or no? But you know what? Most people don't believe that, but of course it is. It's the same nervous system. But the environment reinforces negative behavior more than positive. People go, how's it going? Oh, my life is so great. Oh, easy for you. So pretty soon you learn to go, yeah, I'm doing okay. You don't want to get too good because then your peer group would be unhappy with you because they're not feeling so good. So you learn to downplay it. And then you don't reward yourself so your brain doesn't go for more because it goes, we got to stay right on in here. This is our little comfort zone. So we're going to condition ourselves to be in a peak state, especially when you're exhausted. Because like, remember when you're doing the muscle, the one where you can't lift one more and you make yourself do it, that's where you get all the growth. So when you're most tired is when you got to push yourself. If you didn't listen to anything I said, but all you did was keep yourself in a peak state for 3 days, you'll develop something called emotional muscle. And emotional muscle is where your whole life comes in. Repetition is the mother of skill until it gets conditioned, until it's automatic. Now I'll give you a clue. You know what I told you about them doing this with the finger of the animal? Here's what they discovered. Don't have to do this 10,000 times. All you got to do is do this about 2 dozen, max 3 dozen. If every time they do this, they stimulate the pleasure center of the brain of the animal. And they do that literally physically by pushing a little needle in the area of the brain that creates pleasure. But what happens is when you do this, they do this and they create pleasure. Instead of 1 string, they get like 500 every time you do it with pleasure. So what happens is you can condition yourself with that pleasure, and you can get this done in a short time. It doesn't have to take you 5 years. So we want to purposely put ourselves in these peak states over and over again, not as a rah-rah session, but literally as a training tool for our human nervous system. How many follow this? Say aye. And the secret is when you don't feel like doing it, that's when you got to do it the most, because that's when you'll get the real conditioning. But don't just do it like, all right, yes, 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 yes. Okay? You gotta smile and make yourself feel good while you're doing it and make it better each time.